Hello and welcome to another episode of the Game Design Podcast. Once again, my name is Brad Carney and I'm the founder of Final Boss Entertainment, who recently developed Rack, which is a game that's actually about to celebrate its 1-year anniversary. So don't know how recently it was developed, but I think we'll spend next week's episode talking about it a little bit. So should be fun. Looking forward to that. But today we're talking about sequels. So why is it that so many successful games have them? And is that a good thing? Do sequels offer things that the originals couldn't? Or do they merely tap into the potential for businesses to increase their wealth, better known as a cash grab? Well, I'm sure there's some of that going on, but I think that sequels have a lot going for them. For one, they allow you to do things that were beyond the scope of the first game. A sequel can let you explore new worlds and characters. If you try to cram too much into one game, it can be too much, and not even make sense. If sections are taking place during the Civil War, and others during World War II, it can feel disjointed. Having separate games dedicated to each time period might make a lot more sense. Similarly, sequels can allow for modes of play that were beyond the scope of the first game. Maybe the first game had a purely single-player narrative focus, in which case multiplayer would have felt tacked on and not organic. Doing a sequel with more of a multiplayer focus would be a natural way to accomplish that, and not diminish the first game. And by the way, those were our original plans for doing a Rack 2, but just don't want to get anyone's hopes up, but it's not happening right now, so. But anyway, another great thing about sequels is that the technology is evolving at such a rapid pace that oftentimes you can do things that you just plain couldn't do in the predecessor. I think a great example of this is online play, especially when it comes to console games, which really started to take off around the time the Xbox came out. This alone meant that sequels to games from the previous generation all of a sudden had the potential to do things the predecessor could never even dream of. Not doing a sequel would mean things like never having a Street Fighter with online play, or never being able to watch a tournament from inside Dota itself, or never playing a Super Mario Bros. Game that destroys relationships. Yeah, I'm talking about the Wii one. Ugh, so rage-inducing. Finally, sequels are a great way to follow up on an original idea that tested the waters. I think unlike movies, making a game is incredibly risky. Movies are very formulaic, and by the way, I do mean very formulaic. There's actually a great episode of the Cracked podcast that breaks it down. Go check it out. It's very interesting. Unlike a novel, though, games don't really have any kind of set formula. There's really no set of principles whether or not a game will be a success or not, other than this podcast, of course. Anyway, point is, making a game is risky, so oftentimes instead of sinking a fortune into a new concept that may or may not find an audience, companies will produce a lower budget first installment of a game, and then release a much more polished and fleshed out sequel. Probably the most famous example of this is Portal and Portal 2. I know a lot of people like Portal 1 better, and I'm not here to debate which is better, but Portal 2 certainly has more in terms of production values, gameplay modes, and actual game content. Valve saw how successful Portal 1 was, and followed up with a much larger effort. The same goes for something like Sanctum 1 and Sanctum 2. So, coming up, I'll be talking with fellow podcast host Shane Dyel about his experiences with sequels. We'll get into the sequels of such franchises as BioShock, Borderlands, and Call of Duty. Which ones did it right, which ones did it wrong, and how did they get it right, and how did they get it wrong? We'll discuss all that and more, and then I'll be back at the end to wrap things up. The reason I wanted to have you on this is because, like, I know you have like a gaming podcast of your own, so you know that means you have like all sorts of experience with lots of different games and talking about them. But why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about your podcast?
The podcast that I'm a part of, I started about 3 years ago, and initially we started it because we felt like there wasn't a whole lot of topics that weren't being discussed enough. We felt like the gaming community was really focusing on things more or less in the present than in the past, or talking about the future. You know, a lot of things are just present, like talking about, you know, what's happening today instead of what's happening, you know, later on, or discussing about what happened 20 years ago.
Right.
So a bunch of my friends, which, funny enough, we all met playing Call of Duty online back whenever I was in high school, and you know, we kept our group together for so long that whenever I brought this idea up to them, they thought it was great. And when we started out, we honestly did not think that it would be large. It wouldn't go anywhere. We just wanted to do it because it was fun, and it would give us a chance to be able to discuss our knowledge about gaming. And combined, we have about literally about 60 years worth of gaming knowledge combined wise.
Wow, that's awesome.
And when you have that many people together and that much knowledge, like it makes a really good discussion and a really good episode each time we get to do a show.
It's like pulled together, you're almost one retiree. So
yeah, exactly. It's like a bunch of old men sitting in a room discussing about old and great times.
Back in my day, the pixels were 8 pixels. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I can certainly imagine, like, especially, I mean, it's like everyone brings their own kind of different, slightly different viewpoints to the table. And, it's like by having, like, a diverse staff, it's like you kind of get the, like, it's just kind of like a unique perspective from, like, a bunch of different angles, in every episode. So, yeah, I mean, that's definitely a great thing. Whereas, like, this is, just me and the guest, same every episode, so.
But, and I've listened to a lot of your podcasts, and it brings me back every time because you guys go deeper into discussions than what a lot of podcasters do.
Yeah.
Yours is based on games, and designing video games, where a lot of, like, say, like IGN and Kotaku and a lot of those media outlets, they're really punny, and they're trying to be more or less non-serious about the gaming industry,
and they're also trying to be very current.
Yes.
It's I was talking about this last night with someone, but it's like, it's like the collective internet hive mind will, like, go crazy over something for, like, a week and then just forget about it and, like, completely move on to something else. It's like
it's old news.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the Metal Gear Solid, the Phantom Pain. Like, it's already, like, old news. Like, everyone's already
absolutely.
like collectively going nuts over Mario Maker. And then a couple months ago it was like XCOM 2 that everyone was flipping out about, and and it's just crazy. But yeah,
it's funny how games, going back to whenever when I first started playing video games, all the way up till about PlayStation 2. Where you're sitting in a classroom with your friends and you discuss the video game that just came out, and you don't discuss it just for a week. I mean, you just discuss it for almost an entire year.
Oh yeah.
And you bring your Game Shark to school, and you discuss with them, like, how to beat this level, and like, hey, this is how many points I scored on this level. See if you can beat it. And games nowadays are more or less just out there to just they're almost like movies now.
Right.
There's one that comes out almost, every couple weeks. So it's hard to stay on one game for so long.
And I think really with I think with the like just the whole like social aspect, like games themselves being more social media and everything.
Yeah.
It's like something will get like a crazy amount of attention for like a short period. Yeah, it'll be trending on Twitter, it'll be trending on Facebook, whatever. It's like that's what all your friends will be playing. So you kind of get sucked in. Like if you want to have friends, play games with your friends, like you kind of gotta go with what they're going with. But it's I mean it's like because of that, it's like these games kind of have like these very short, very brightly burning kind of life cycles. And yeah, it definitely didn't used to be like that, because it was like instead of like Twitter and Facebook, it was like, I mean, I think we got a lot of our stuff from like gaming magazines, like Game Pro,
and like Nintendo Power.
Yeah.
I know Sega came out with a magazine for a couple years. I can't remember the title of the Gamer, Game Informer.
Yeah.
All these media outlets that no longer do magazines, but that was the thing. I mean, we expected to see that in our mailbox every week, and that was our life. That was our life, coming home from school or coming home from like a day out in the sun, during the summertime, and having that and being able to sit down and read it, and then being able to plop it in your PlayStation 2. Sega Dreamcast or Nintendo 64, or your Super Nintendo, or your Xbox, original Xbox, not the Xbox One. But those days are over, because social media and internet and a lot of other things have really just changed the outlook on video games, and it's almost a double-edged sword because the media and everything nowadays have really, I think, broadened and popularized video games more now than it was in the past.
Right.
But yet, video games back then were more, I feel, enjoyable because it was more of a personal thing on a more personal level than it is like a friend level. But being able to play games with your friends now is amazing. I mean, multiplayer didn't exist when I was in school, all the way up till about when I was in high school. I mean, I didn't have a PC, and I had a PlayStation 2, and at the time, playing online video games really, it wasn't very good. I mean, I remember seeing on the box on PlayStation 2, cases, it said online broadband, and I never knew what that was. I'm like, what the heck is this?
Yeah.
What is multiplayer? And and most of the time when I played with my friends, I'd have them come over to my house and plug in their second controller instead of them being at their house. So yeah, video games nowadays have just really it's gone to a different section of a place where it's in its own category now. And
and I mean,
it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, and that actually kind of like nicely ties into kind of the general topic for today, which is basically sequels. And one of the things that's actually like great about like sequels when it comes to video games, like, by doing a sequel, it's like you get to like capitalize on like all the changing technology that goes on in the whole like gaming industry. It's like, you'll come out with a game and then it's like, oh, by the time it's time to do the sequel, now all of a sudden you have online broadband and like all these other like crazy new features, and it's like you get to like make a new game that's kind of gets to kind of utilize these new features. And it's not just like graphics. It's not just like, kind of enhanced visual. I mean, it's like really like game changing features a lot of times. It's like multiplayer. I mean, it's like prior to like the Xbox, like the original Xbox coming out, it was like there was like no multiplayer period on any consoles, and it's like as soon as that came out and like games were able to have like a multiplayer version of it was like a complete game changer.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, and I think multiplayer has really, in a sense, made it to where companies are making more and more sequels to video games because, again, with every year you see something different in technology, like you were talking about, Brad. Whether it be a new game engine or new physics to a game, or like new characters, new weapons. And the company that has done this well over the years has been Ubisoft, in my opinion. Ubisoft has really done a good job with the Assassin's Creed titles. I feel like they've done a really good job with that. Yeah. As well as a bunch of other titles. For instance, Borderlands. Borderlands has done a great job, going all the way from the original Borderlands game to Borderlands 2 to Borderlands pre-sequel, and they just came out with a Handsome Jack collection just not too long ago, and they're doing a really good job with that.
Okay.
And I mean, this goes all the way up to your first-person shooters, whether it be Battlefield, which we just talked about. A lot of it's just a time to just try and get as much money as possible, and sometimes that is the case. We see it a lot with Call of Duty. We see a lot of the sequels with Call of Duty. It's the same thing every single year, and people are starting to figure that out. And I'm sure you're. Yeah, go ahead.
The thing though, like about that is that I'm actually gonna like defend these companies a little bit on that. I think for the most part, like if there weren't people out there who wanted these, like.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the whole idea about pre-ordering a game is ruining. I feel, and this is just my opinion. My opinion. The whole idea of pre-ordering a game really kind of gives incentive to the companies to try and get the game out as quick as possible.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, I mean, if they already have your money, it's like, why do they have to work for it? It's
right.
Like, why do they have to put that extra effort in to win you over? They've already won.
Yes, I mean that's the whole idea about throwing down $5 and then
so go pre-order our next game. So no.
Yeah, I mean it's and what's really hard about that is, and I know we're kind of talking about the whole pre-order thing, but the whole idea of giving you incentive to pre-order, whether it be pre-order the game and get an extra weapon, or pre-order the game and get an extra map on multiplayer. That kind of goes back to the whole multiplayer thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, it's more and more and more incentives to get you to buy into their product, which is good. I mean, it's a good thing, but whenever you give the companies power to basically have your money before you have the game in your hand, that is a scary thing.
Yeah, it's just really hurting their incentive to, do a great job. So yeah, I'm definitely with you on that being dangerous. But it's just, I guess like the original point I was trying to drive at is that I see a lot of people like do things like hate on like all the like Call of Duty sequels, but those people I don't feel like are the intended audience, and I think what they're really upset about is that all those development dollars and all the manpower and effort that's being put into those games aren't being put into something that would appeal to them more.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I think that's a lot of what's going on. But I mean, there's a lot of people out there who, it's like they just want another Call of Duty. They just want another Assassin's Creed. They just want another Borderlands. Like they don't want like the formula to be like dramatically changed. It's like if they were to like make like an Iron Man 4 or something, I wouldn't want it to be like dramatically different than like what Iron Man 1, 2, and 3 were. Well, maybe 2, but
yeah. I was gonna say,
the others are good, but yeah. It's like there's a lot of people who it's like, oh, do something different, do something new, and it's like I don't feel like they're the original. Like I don't feel like they're the target audience in the first place, and I feel like the target audience wouldn't want them to change things up too much.
Oh yeah. I mean, for instance, Call of Duty. I mean, I've been a Call of Duty player ever since Call of Duty 4. I mean, that's been one of my favorite game titles every year to play with, and I have hated on them just enough to where it almost makes me a hater. Mm-hmm. But I respect Treyarch, I respect Infinity Ward, I respect Sledgehammer Games, and I respect Activision as their publisher for what they do, because I feel like they have great teams at their development companies working on this game tirelessly. And what people really don't understand is that this is not easy.
Right.
If it was easy, everyone would try and do it, because making a video game for other people to enjoy. It is. You have to have your heart, and you have to have your mind, and you have to have tons of money to be able to put in this, and it's a risk.
Yeah,
they have to understand that it's a risk.
One of the things that I was talking about in the intro is that how one of the reasons like I feel like sequels are really good for video games is that games are just so risky to make. So like movies, for instance, are like incredibly formulaic, and I'd be like really formulaic. It's like they all have to be like 90 minutes. They all have to have like some game-changing event happen like exactly 40 minutes in. Otherwise, you're like, this is dragging, this is boring. Get to the point. Like you're just not gonna enjoy it. So it's like movies, like any good movies, like basically to follow like the exact same.
Yeah, you have your protagonist, your antagonist.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Right. So, everything's gonna wrap up about 10 minutes before the movie's over. Etc. But like with a video game, like there is no like it's like a novel. Like there's no set format. It's like there's no like format to like make a novel. Like they all have to be 200 pages. Every chapter has to be 3.5 pages. Like there's nothing like that for a novel. And like for a video game, it's the same. So it's like anytime you come out with like a new concept, like a new IP, you're basically like taking a stab in the dark. Like you don't know if it's gonna work out or not. So it's like a lot of times what a company will do is like they'll kind of like not overly, they won't commit too heavily to like a new idea. Like they'll kind of like test the waters a little bit. And the example I gave in the intro is I think Portal. It's like like you look at like the original Portal compared to like Portal 2, it's like night and day. It's like Portal 2 has like way more in terms of like production values and polish and content and like gameplay modes, like compared to like Portal 1, which is just kind of like, we're just gonna see if people kind of like this basic idea, and if they do, we'll kind of run with it and kind of do more. I know like Sanctum and Sanctum 2 is like another good example of that. I'm sure there's more examples. Like, do you know any like off the top of your head?
Oh yeah, I mean BioShock 2.
Okay,
BioShock 2 was I mean, for me, as you know, growing up, in high school, and got my PlayStation 3, which I absolutely loved, still one of my favorite game consoles of all time. Being able to play BioShock at my friend's house really opened my eyes to something different, because I was hooked on, the first-person shooter, like with Call of Duty, where there'd be like a wars type scene or like a futuristic type deal. Mm-hmm. BioShock really kind of opened my eyes to a different world of first-person shooter. Mm-hmm. Because you have to. It was almost like a loot shooter, because you had to loot, you had to go find things, loot it, get things to be able to complete throughout the story. And what's really great about BioShock is that there's multiple endings. Mm-hmm. And I feel like, with a game, there's a lot of games that just have one straight ending. Mm-hmm. There's no, what if you do this and there's a different ending to it, or right. What if you do this and there's just one set ending. I mean, and I think BioShock did a really good job at doing that. And
but like you think BioShock 2 like kind of took that and was like, hey, people seem to like this, so let's polish it up and do it way better for BioShock 2.
Exactly. And what's great about BioShock 2 is that it was a direct sequel. I mean, it took place events right after BioShock 1, which was I was so happy about, because BioShock 1 was just it was so good, because you have Andrew Ryan there, and basically he's trying to basically just take over, and then you have I'm I'm drawing a blank because it's been a long day, but you have
that's all right.
Atlas, which Fontaine, that's who I was trying to think of. You have Fontaine, who's also trying to pull the protagonist out of the proportion, along with Andrew Ryan. Mm-hmm. And it's just it was just really good. And then with BioShock 2, it took that formula and basically put you in a Big Daddy suit, which was awesome.
Yeah.
And, and you're trying to protect the the little girls and everything. And so basically, that's one of my favorites of all time, BioShock 2. And then the Uncharted series, Uncharted 2, Among Thieves was a great one. Mm-hmm.
But it didn't kind of like take what the first one did, just like do it like way better.
Yeah, they just took what made the first one good, and they took what people thought that they could change, and they changed it in Uncharted 2.
I see.
And I feel like that's what companies should do. They should take, I mean, it is really hard to beat Nathan Drake, in my opinion. Nathan Drake is one of the best characters in games of all time. I mean, he's on my top 5 probably forever, regardless of what games come out in the future. And I feel like they did a really good job with that. And of course, talking about Uncharted 2, same company, Crash Bandicoot, Naughty Dog. Crash Bandicoot was able to come out with a good sequel after the first Crash Bandicoot, and they did a really good job with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, how? I'm not too familiar with the game, but it's like, what did they do in the sequel that was like so much better?
Basically, they improved like what you could do. Because in the first Crash Bandicoot, it was basically one-dimensional. Basically you just run back and forth, with Crash Bandicoot, busting open boxes, trying to get peaches, trying to complete the levels, trying to get the voodoo guys, and basically trying to defeat the witch doctor, the witch boss at the end. Where Crash Bandicoot 2, what they really did great in that is that they made it to where it was, it wasn't just one-sided. It was, you can go, it made it 3-dimensional instead of just 1-dimensional. 1-dimensional meaning, in my case, only being able to go forwards and backwards and slightly side to side. Where in Crash Bandicoot 2, they really made it to where it was larger and made it more open for you to be able to go through the levels without just like being on this one set path. Mm-hmm. Which was really nice, I felt.
Yeah. And I mean, was the technology available to do that in the first one? Like they just didn't do it, or was
I don't think they did it. I felt like I mean, Crash Bandicoot 2 came out on of course the PlayStation as well, and I felt like possibly maybe the technology to them maybe wasn't there yet.
Right. Okay.
You know, as a development company, maybe it wasn't there yet for them.
Right.
And
Yeah.
As a development team, they realized that they wanted to try and do something different, and they did it. And it worked. Yeah. So that's again where a gamble worked out. They gambled and made it different than the first one. Where sometimes, like we were talking about, it's better to be set on a path because some people don't like big changes.
Right.
So it's it's one of those type games where they took a gamble and it worked.
Mm-hmm.
I think the same can be said for Kingdom Hearts 2. The Kingdom Hearts 2, I felt like and Square Enix and Disney did a really good job with Kingdom Hearts 2.
Well, what did they do in 2 that was so much better than 1?
They opened up the story. Kingdom Hearts 1, they had a really good broad story, and you have Mickey, you have all the Disney characters, and basically you're on the path to basically I guess like a Pirates of the Caribbean type thing. And what was really good is that it honestly should have, like they were talking about how Kingdom Hearts 2 should have been Kingdom Hearts 1, and how Kingdom Hearts really should have been more of a like one-sided story, and instead Kingdom Hearts 2 came out and it was like a multiverse type story where anything could happen, almost like BioShock,
right? Which
was really cool. And they really brought in like different things, like for instance in Kingdom Hearts 2 they brought in like the Pirates of the Caribbean, the Lion King, and some other things, just kind of going off the top of my head. Like I have not played Kingdom Hearts 2 in like maybe 10 years. That's how long I haven't played it. But Kingdom Hearts 2 is one of my favorite games growing up as a kid. And then of course Red Dead Redemption, the first Red Dead Revolver game. Yeah, did you ever get to play Red Dead Revolver?
No, I have not.
See, that's another great game that Rockstar Games has really been known for these really bloody, gory, and basically hated video games by the public because they just say that they're bad for our children, which
that public, yeah, okay,
yeah, bad for.
I was like, really? Who hates Red Dead Redemption? All I've heard is praise for that, but yeah,
you know what I'm saying, because it's rated M for mature and play it and everything like that, which is true. I mean, people who are 17 and older really need to be able to play this game. It shows a lot of sexual stuff, but anyway, that's another discussion. Yeah. But like, what's really great is that they took Red Dead Revolver as a they start out as you're the kid, you watch your parents get killed, and you're sad and all this good stuff, and so basically you grow up and you seek to find revenge on the people who basically destroyed your life in a sense. And what really was great about it is that it came out with this new version of how to be able to shoot people, and it was called slow motion 6-shooter, where you have this little bar, and every time you kill and shoot somebody, that bar fills up, and then you save that bar for whenever like you have a huge group of people that you want to take out very quickly, and basically you aim and you push that button and it slows the speed down, and then as you aim individually on each character, it puts a target on their head or their body, and then once you fill up 6 different people with those targets, the slow motion goes away, and basically you take out all 6 with like just in a spray down.
Nice.
It was one of the best things in a game I'd ever seen, especially for a third person shooter.
Yeah.
And Red Dead Redemption, what they did is that it was almost a. I wouldn't necessarily call it a sequel because it doesn't take place from the original story. It's like a totally different story. Right. But it's in the same family though. It's in the same family as the boy I just told you about who grew up and basically,
saw his parents get murdered.
Yeah, saw his parents get murdered and got revenge. And so with this is his cousin who basically grew up as a tough kid, and basically both his parents got thrown in jail, all this good stuff and whatnot, and basically he has to grow up with no parents in his life. in a sense, just like the first one.
Right.
So it's a really impactful story, and basically what they really did awesome with this is the ability to be able to like jump trains, jump on horses, being able to dual wield two guns at the same time. Basically it was like GTA.
Right.
Yeah, they added GTA into Red Dead Redemption.
Right. Yeah, I mean, what I think is interesting about this, and kind of like the Kingdom Hearts example you gave earlier, like it really all kind of goes back to like the whole like games are difficult to produce kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
It's like, I mean, the whole like benefit of like doing a sequel is like, after like doing like the first game and like spending years on it, like you're finally like getting feedback on like what's working. Like for a movie, it's so easy to like screen it, like, hey, just have a bunch of people over, have them watch it, and you gotta get feedback. But like with a game, that's really hard to do. It's like to get to the point where it's like it's even like playable and enjoyable, like that takes years. Like that takes so much effort.
And I don't think people realize it enough. People just think that companies make these games in a year. That is beyond that is beyond the truth.
I mean, seriously, like I think that's like a huge misconception with like Call of Duty. It's like, it's just the same company as cranks out a game every year. It's like, no, there's like
this game's been in development.
Yeah,
3 companies that be on this, and it took them 3+ years to probably to be able to do this. I mean, they started this game whenever they got this game out.
Right.
Like, remember this game? Yeah, well, they were still developing this game for future release.
Yeah. So, but, I mean, it's like part of why, like, Kingdom Hearts 2 is, like, so much better than Kingdom Hearts 1. And it's because it's, like, a sequel and they've gotten the feedback. But it's kind of the same with, like, Red Dead Redemption. Like, it's almost like a sequel to Grand Theft Auto. Like, it's kind of, like, similar in, like, kind of like the storytelling and, like, the mechanics. Obviously you're like in the West and everything, but it's from what I understand, it's fairly similar. So like basically all the experience that the company has gotten by making all the Grand Theft Auto games has been able to be applied to Red Dead Redemption to like make that into a great game. And like maybe that's part of why like we haven't seen a sequel to that game.
A sequel to Red Dead Redemption because
because it's like they've already like perfected it. Like
it's hard to perfect something that you've already perfected. I mean that's the one thing is, for instance, like I'm trying to think of, it's on the top of my head, but anyway, kind of going past that, GTA 5 for instance, Grand Theft Auto 5 is going to be around for at least 3 years because of its just playability and the availability to expand it. And that's the one thing I was also going to mention is, do you agree that expansions should be labeled as sequels?
I don't know. I mean, you could kind of I mean, at the end of the day, it's like it is what it is. I mean,
it is what it is. It's an add-on.
Yeah,
I mean, But I mean, I think the one thing that I was going to get at is it also depends on the game.
Yeah. Okay. Like here's the way I would kind of look at it. If it's just kind of like, okay, I mean there are some sequels that are just like very iterative, like kind of like it's just the next chapter. We're not really going to do too much. I mean that's almost just like an add-on instead of like really a sequel. I mean kind of like Doom 2 to Doom 1. It's just kind of like, we're gonna add a couple monsters. We'll add a couple brown ugly textures, or it's like, I don't know, it's like Doom 3 was more of like a sequel to Doom.
Doom 3 was like a complete like revamp, or try of a revamp.
But it's, I mean, it was like Doom 2 was like to Doom 1 what like Final Doom was to Doom 2, and like that was just like, I mean that was labeled as an expansion. So it's like, I don't know why Doom 2
Final Doom was an expansion, and Final Doom felt like a brand new game almost.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, we were talking about like, there's all sorts of ways that sequels can improve on the original. And it's like, I wanted to mention Doom 2.
Oddly enough,
it's like an example of where this isn't necessarily true. But yeah, well, there is one other thing that I did mention in the intro, and it does sound like we've kind of touched on this a little bit, but it's like by doing a sequel, it kind of gives you a chance to do things that would have been beyond the scope of the original. It's like maybe you had the technology, maybe you had the resources to do it, but it's like it just wouldn't have made sense to include it. Like it should be like the focus of its own game. And I mean, kind of like the analogy I was thinking of was like it'd kind of be like maybe like a season of like a TV show. It's like you'll have like that season will have like its own storylines and kind of things that are contained within that season, and then it's like it wouldn't make sense to like drag those over to like a second season. It's like you kind of want to like compartmentalize. Yeah, so it's I mean I guess like the one franchise that you were mentioning that I think is like a great example of this is like a Assassin's Creed.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and I mean correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like a lot of times aren't you like in different time periods and regions?
Like you're during the Civil War period.
Yeah.
You're back in like the Greek mythology type
right.
era, or I believe Black Flag. You're in the Caribbean at one point. So I mean,
right.
it's just what like I said before, like Ubisoft and the Assassin's Creed's games have really done well is because they've changed up the time periods.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whether or not the gameplay is great and authentic, or like the gameplay style has changed, I honestly think that if you change that up so much, people are not gonna get used to your games.
Right.
And I feel like being able to be familiar with a game is very important.
Yeah, I think that's my biggest criticism with the Final Fantasy games. It's like every game, it's like they're trying to like reinvent their battle system, and and it's just like
yes.
what the hell is a Final Fantasy game at this point? It's like it's like Final Fantasy 13, it's single player. Final Fantasy 14 is an MMO, and it's like, well, what is it then?
Whoa.
And it's like there's like
first person shooter. What's going on?
Yeah. Now check out Final Fantasy Chromo Phantasm, or like what? Like there's like some new weird thing that's coming, and it's just like I don't know.
It's like you can change from third person to first person, and like it changes to like 8-bit pixels.
Oh, is that actually happening in this?
No, I don't think so.
Okay,
but it did happen. God,
it wouldn't. I mean, it wouldn't shock me. I mean, it's just.
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, Call of Duty and Modern Warfare 3 tinkered with the whole like trying to give a third person's perspective video game multiplayer type, and it failed. It failed miserably. They implemented a game mode called third person TDM and third person domination, and it was not praised very well. They were trying to change something that had been there for almost 15 years.
Wow.
And like I said, people did not like it, and they haven't done it since.
Yeah.
So again, that's kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier. Sometimes when you gamble, it can come back to hit you in the butt, or it can be good.
And I mean, that's the kind of thing where it's like, had it not been Call of Duty, it might have worked. But it's like they were trying this like new thing, and like in this thing that was already established, and it's like people are in people's minds, Call of Duty meant first person shooter, warfare, blah blah. So it's like if they try and do something else, it's like there's that kind of clashing there.
It was almost like they were trying to be SOCOM. It was really weird.
Yeah. Whereas like maybe if like they start a new franchise and they introduce this idea, I mean maybe that can be.
Yeah, that would be a little bit different.
But it's like if they try to make like a Call of Duty game that was like. I don't know, like a cooking simulator. I don't know, like something that like it definitely is not. It's like it's like if you swap the labels with like Call of Duty and like Cooking Mama, I guess is the franchise I was thinking of. But it's like I mean the game can work, but like just not under that name because of all the associations people have with it. Yeah, it was. I mean, we kind of went through like the same thing with Rack. You know, it was like people saw it, and it was like, oh, well, it's an old school shooter. We were like, well, yeah, but then it's like there's these other things to it. You know, it's like people didn't really.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
so
it's like
much
once they
more
kind of pegged it as like old school shooter, it's like we expect these things from it, and these things from it only. And we don't want this combos and scores, you know, and all that.
But no, I mean, Rack was so much more than that, and it was so much more than that to me. I mean, Rack to me was a way to be able to see something different, see something that not a lot of games were doing, where your score in a sense matters.
Right.
It matters, and the whole idea of the whole cell. It was cell shaded, but it was done correctly, not like how. I've talked to you about this before, and I've talked about it on my podcast before, but Borderlands, as much as I love it, makes me sick.
Yeah.
It makes me absolutely sick because the mechanics in it and the way they did the cell shading, it doesn't formulate well with my eyes, and it makes me motion sick. Where Rack, I can spend 5 hours on my computer playing it and not feel nauseous one bit.
Yeah.
And what's really good is about what Rack is that there's this really good and broad storyline to it, and there's these ways to be able to. I mean, it's not just one-sided. It's very multi-sided, where you have to be able to know how to do this in order to get the special trophy, or you need to find out a bunch of secrets, or this is one area where you're going to have to be able to get a bunch of combos put together in order to get a high top score, or or the whole speedrunning type thing. I mean, there's a lot of different things to Rack that a lot of people don't realize that they probably need to start paying more attention to.
Yeah. We should maybe have you on next week when we talk about Rack. Because like our like 1 year anniversary is like coming up, so it's like
I can't believe it. It's so crazy.
Time flies.
A year ago.
Yeah, well, I mean, one thing I do want to get back to, you mentioned it, briefly a little bit ago. When we're talking about like, games that really improved on their predecessor, like you mentioned like Borderlands 2, and like to me, like that's always been one where it's like I had high expectations that they would like. That they would take the original and like make improvements to it, and like things with the UI and like things. Well, I mean, we can get into a little bit, but what is it that you think like they improved so much on it?
Well, first of all, I'm going to say this right now. Randy Pitchford, if you're listening to this, thank you, Lord Jesus Christ, that you took out fall damage, because
he's a big listener, by the way.
No one likes fall damage, and I think that was one of the bigger things that they really improved on was giving you. Not limiting the player to what they could just do. They basically just let you be able to roam free, and if you jumped off something, you're not gonna get killed or hurt. And I think him and Gearbox did a really good job. And using the Unreal Engine 3 was a big step up in their development cycle, because a lot of games are based off the Unreal Engine, and
the original wasn't.
I think the original was based off a version of the Unreal Engine 3, and then whenever they came out with the new Physics X technology, it was announced that they were going to be using the new upgraded Unreal Engine 3.
Oh, okay.
I think that's how it went. Because Physics X was, Physics X came out with NVIDIA. And NVIDIA was like super pumped about it, like this is gonna change technology and gaming forever, and so far they've done a really good job at it, but forever, something new is gonna come out. Come on, please.
Yeah.
But they did a really good job with it.
Maybe a little bold of a statement, but yeah.
But
hey, it's their marketing guy. I mean, what's he gonna? Oh, we expect a modest increase in gaming.
But also, I think what really kind of made things a lot better was having secrets, and then of course the whole the whole side story to Handsome Jack. Handsome Jack really kind of made the game so much better in this one. I feel like, Handsome Jack was just like, you hate him, but you love him, because he's just so funny, even though he's the bad guy. And then, and then the graphics, of course. Graphics, looked amazing, but again, makes me sick. And then, the introduction to Claptrap. Claptrap was, you're basically I'm not gonna say your partner in crime, but he's kind of like, that one dog that always sticks next to you all the time that kind of annoys the heck out of you, but you still love it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and then of course, and then like I was talking about, like the secrets and like having to find all the vault symbols, and the whole idea of having companies and weapons and more weapons and legendaries, all that good stuff, having from the first and whatnot, really made it awesome too. And what really made it awesome was the NPCs in this game. I thought the NPCs in Borderlands 2 were more like you wanted to get to know them better.
Right. Like better written, more.
Yes, more of a character bio, if you'd say. Like Dr. Zed and Mad Moxie, Marcus, God, I can't.
Hammerlock,
Marcus. Sir Hammerlock, and Tiny Tina, which is like my favorite character of all time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like Crazy
got her own
Earl.
expansion.
Yeah, the Tiny Tina expansion, which was a really good one. So that that's trying to return peace to Pandora, and all that good stuff, and trying to complete it, and of course getting to level 72, which was, having to play the game all the way through 3 times, so it was, had its replayability, and that's another thing which made it great.
Yeah. God, what was I gonna say? Yeah, like the hammer thing, like the Handsome Jack thing, like I've definitely, like it seemed like a lot of people, like they, it's like Handsome Jack was like a big draw, just kind of like the characters in general, or is, I don't know, I guess in like Borderlands that was kind of stale. The thing I did want to say though was, it just seems like another example of like where it's like, especially where you're talking about a Claptrap, but it's like the first game, like you're kind of experimenting, you're kind of throwing these things out there. You're seeing if people like them, and then when it comes to the sequel, it's like, okay, so this worked, people like this, all right, let's do it, and let's really do it, and so it's like, it's like the Claptrap and like the the kind of wacky, fun character, it's like they just kind of like went all out this time.
Yeah, they were not afraid to.
They just really like outdid the first one in a lot of respects.
Yes, they did, and I'm really hoping that and what really kind of disappointed me is that pre-sequel wasn't as good, and of course we weren't expecting it to be as good as Borderlands 2, but I'm expecting to see a Borderlands 3 within the next probably maybe year or two, and I have high hopes for it. Hopefully, it's I really hope 2K and Gearbox really does a really good job on it. Hopefully,
yeah. Well, they certainly seem to promise a lot at the end of Borderlands 2 with just all the vaults. So
yes, that's what really kind of made it interesting at the end. So
yeah, like it's, oh god, like what was that game they showed at E3, or was it E3? Well, the one where it's like just like a billion star systems you can all fly around.
Oh man,
like one man star.
One man sky.
One man sky. Okay, that's it.
Yes, basically all the worlds that you can find, and telling us that there are going to be some worlds that no one will ever find. Mm-hmm. Some worlds will not be, what's the word I'm looking for here? Like searched.
Yeah.
Or whatnot, and that's that. Whenever they said that, I said to myself, now the world of video gaming is forever unlocked. Because there's no limitations. There's nothing now. There's basically there's infinitability to it now.
Yeah.
And that's scary. That's scary because then people are going to try and immerse themselves into video games, which is a great thing, but which sometimes it leads to bad things, which if you're a smart person, it doesn't. So
yeah. The people can certainly get addicted to things and play them far too much, like I have with Heroes of the Storm over the past month.
Storm.
Yeah. Oh my god! The last episode kind of like touched on that prior to me having played it. Now
Great game, by the way.
Played it. Oh, it's great. I love it. It's
great free to play.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely gonna have to talk about it again because there's so much great game design in that game, and there's plenty of terrible game design, but more like terrible human nature that gets. But anyway, it's like I'm getting penalized for like my teammates being idiots. And,
Come on.
God. It's like that's not my fault. Why am I ranking down for this? What the hell, Blizzard? Anyway, that's why you play teams. And anyway,
that's right.
But so I mean, let's I know you've had a lot of experience with the series. Like it's part of what like I want to talk about this topic with you. But it's like we were kind of talking about like how it's like it's like part of the reason it's like great to have sequels is because you can kind of like neatly compartmentalize like the scope of a game, and then it's like you do a game, then you do like another game that kind of tackles a different thing, different area, different theme, different gameplay mechanics or whatever. But I mean, I do think a great example of that is like Call of Duty. It's like there's different it's like they have their like Modern Warfare series, they have their Black Ops series, they have their Advanced Warfare series, but it's like I mean it's like they're kind of tackling like a different thing in each game, and it just wouldn't make sense to kind of like have all that in one game. It'd be too much. It'd be there'd be too much content. People would lose interest in it, and it's so much more neat and just all around better to like have sequels and different games that kind of touch on different things.
I really feel like they do a great job of that, just like you said, Brad. And I think the one thing that I wish that they would do is that I feel like one company, like, say, Sledgehammer Games, should be set in the future, because they do a really good job with, the whole, like, exo ability and, the futuristic type stuff.
Did they do Advanced Warfare?
Yeah, they did Advanced Warfare.
Okay.
And, with Black Ops, Black Ops went from the Vietnam War era to kind of more of a modern day, like set in 2025, so 10 years into the future type deal. Mm-hmm. And then now with Black Ops 3, they have really pushed the boundaries of the future, and which is I mean, with two futuristic type video games at Call of Duty, you want to kind of see something different. Like you want to see something more in a different era. Where like Ghost now, I mean, the whole Modern Warfare series with that, and then now Ghost with Infinity Ward, they're really set in present day, which is a good spot for them because they do that really well. Mm-hmm. And I really wish that Treyarch or Sledgehammer, I don't care which one, but some company needs to go back in the past, because if we set ourselves in the present and future, we'll forget the past. And right. I really feel like going back and being more in like, like say like the Korean War, or like say the Vietnam War again, or like Desert Storm, or even going back to World War II should be a great thing to be able to do. Mm-hmm. And I don't think we're seeing that right now from Call of Duty, and I wish it would. I really wish they would go back.
Yeah. Get on that, EA. Have someone do that.
Yeah, I mean, for instance,
I mean, like past, present, future, like it just
that would be perfect.
Sense.
You have three companies, past, present, future. I mean, that would be the greatest category of all time, because you would know what to expect from each year instead of thinking, oh my God, is it going to be futuristic? Is it going to be past, or is it going to be present? It's like when before Treyarch announced Black Ops 3, everybody was like, oh, World at War 2 is coming back, because I mean, it's like, it's been 8 years since, World at War, and it's time to, bring back World War 2, and everybody was like, it's going to be World at War 2, and it's Black Ops 3, and a lot of people were really disappointed. But I got to play the beta, and it was really good. And I think, going along with that.
Where'd you play it?
What's that?
Where did you play it? Or...
I got a free beta code by again, incentives by pre-ordering the game. Which again, that's another good / bad thing. And I got to play it on PlayStation 4, which was a very fantastic experience. The beta went very smoothly, never had any problems whatsoever. Didn't have any server lag, didn't have any server issues, which means that they were on top and they were prepared to release this beta out to the public. And
unlike Capcom, anyway.
Yeah. I don't think Capcom knew what they were doing whenever they said, "Hey, we're going to release a beta." And and it kind of
they may be surprised that their game was actually popular and people wanted to play.
Like, wait a minute, people actually want to play this? Oh my gosh, we have 10% more than what our server can handle. Oh my god.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's like I said, companies need to be more prepared when stuff like that happens, and they need to expect tenfold more than what they think they might have.
Right.
So that way that they are prepared. They are at least prepared for it.
Yeah, most definitely. Which is there like a particular like Call of Duty sequel that like really impressed you? Like you feel like really did a good job with like I don't know being a sequel or.
I'll be honest with you. I have two
Okay.
Call of Duties that really did a good job, and again, they're the two different companies that were just the two companies at one point. World at War did a fantastic job with the sequel, because Call of Duty 3, while it was a great game, it never appeared on the PlayStation 3. Which to me, it was very disappointing, because at the same time, I got my PlayStation 3 like literally like 4 months after the game came out, which you would think that they would probably try and sink money into it, but I'm glad they didn't, because they spent all their time trying to develop World at War, which was such a great game. And Treyarch did a fantastic job. I still go back and play a 9-year-old game every once in a while on my PlayStation 3, and that's the game I play. Yeah. And when you have a game that was that good, you kind of have to pat yourself on the back for that, because people still go back and play it, and people still make mods on PC for zombies. That was the first game that brought zombies to Call of Duty.
Wow.
And so that was another step up. That was another chance that they took, and I believe, I can't remember what conference it was at, but it was also live streamed. But they were talking about how they were gonna scrap the entire zombies thing, because they didn't think that it would be a great part of Call of Duty. It wasn't a part of the regular like Call of Duty type thing. It never had been done before, but because it was so successful, they were saying that they were so happy that they were able to bring this to their fans. And that's another great thing about taking a risk and it coming out on top.
Yeah.
And I would probably say my second favorite sequel of all time for Call of Duty would probably be Modern Warfare 2. Getting to know Soap McTavish and Captain Price in the first one. These two British SAS agents that are really focused on saving the world, and saving the world the right way. You really start to indulge yourself into their lives, and then going into the second one, you really start to find out their backstory. Like, what did they do before Modern Warfare, the original Modern Warfare, and the present day Modern Warfare 2.
And it's like, would trying to include that in the original Call of Duty, like, would it just have been too much? Like, was it better that it was saved for a sequel, or?
I think what probably the reason why they didn't add too much of a backstory to the first Modern Warfare is that they didn't know if it was going to be a hit or not. I think they really wanted to focus on gameplay instead of story. In that one, because
that's a good idea.
I mean, I think that I think that really came out on top with them, because around that time is whenever console multiplayer really hit the big time.
Oh yeah,
really hit the big time. So they really focused on the multiplayer aspect of that.
That really is smart.
And so they focused on the story for Modern Warfare 2 instead of really the gameplay for the single player. And then they really tried to after that, they had their own separate multiplayer team, and they really developed that, and kind of took it up to another spot on the I guess it'd be like the awesome gaming level, awesome gaming experience for multiplayer for Modern Warfare 2, whether it be the weapons, maps, textures, gameplay, all that good stuff. They really did a good job with the multiplayer.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I don't know. I have nothing else to add to that. I mean, that all sounds good, but yeah. I mean, it sounds like it all sounds like a very appropriate use of making a sequel. And
yeah, and they didn't take what Modern Warfare 2 was good and put it in Modern Warfare 3, because everybody hated that game.
Yeah. But no, I mean, it just sounds like it's it seems like it's like a good reinforcement of like the it's kind of like good to experiment in the first game and not kind of overcommit. So you don't want to go bankrupt if the thing doesn't work out.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it's like if it does do well, it's like you kind of go balls to the walls with the sequel and just really.
It's like not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Which is I think a lot of companies nowadays kind of throw all their playing cards in one hand and try and play the biggest hand that they can. And sometimes it doesn't work.
Yeah, I think I think a lot of the reason for that is like just the perception that like there's so much saturation out there. It's like people feel like I got to spend 50 million whatever to do something to create an impact in this saturated marketplace. And I mean a lot of times it just doesn't work out. It's like you see companies kind of go belly up making too big of a commitment on like a new IP or something, and people don't dig it, and it doesn't work out for them.
Yeah, and that's whenever it becomes sad, because you almost feel like as the gaming community you're the cause of it. And sometimes you feel
I don't know if a lot of people feel that guilt though.
No, they don't. But I mean, the people who are really immersed in the games and they know how hard it is to make a video game. You feel the need to feel almost responsible because, as the gaming community, you're the community that keeps this company afloat,
right?
Regardless if their game is great or bad.
Yep.
And sometimes, again, it's all on the developers. And sometimes when the developer thinks that they have created an awesome video game that they think is great in their mind, they may not be thinking about the people who they're putting it out to.
That's absolutely right.
And that's again where the fan feedback and the gaming community feedback is very essential. And I feel like a lot of companies don't do enough of it.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly the reason why, we took Rack around to, QuakeCon and other conventions. It's like, we wanted to make sure people liked it. They were having a good time with it. And, well, Shane, I appreciate you. Oh, well, actually, any final thoughts on sequels and...
Oh, yeah. Sequel. I mean, we talked about sequels today, and, whether it be from a major company, or a third party, or indie developer, or a splash flash game, it does not matter. Regardless if it's a sequel, the people who develop the game put their heart and soul into it to entertain, the people, the gamers, and that's what makes sequels great, is because they try to take what made the first game great and try and make the second one even greater. Mm-hmm. They're not there to make a terrible game. There's no reason for that. And I don't think people fully understand that sequels are not there to be bad. They're there to immerse you in more in what the first one was about.
Yeah, and I mean, there was like something posted on Kotaku, but it was talking. It was like something from like an industry insider. He's like, like listed like 10 things people like don't know about the industry, and like one of his like big points was like, usually if a game sucks, the developers know that well in advance, and it's like they're just like helpless to do anything about it. It's like there will be like some kind of like limitation, but like they're not trying to like make just some garbage game. Like they care like probably more than you do. I mean, it's like their livelihood. It's like
they're putting their name
child they're creating for you, and it's like they want to do everything in their power and make it turn out right. But it's like a lot of times it's just things are beyond their control. It's like maybe they run out of money. Maybe it's like they just don't have people with the right positions. Bad management, whatever. But it's I mean these things happen. But I mean the developers care. I mean
yes.
It's all these things have a lot of incredibly passionate, talented people working on them, and sometimes things work out, sometimes they don't. But it's not for lack of caring.
That is absolutely true. There's no doubt about it. Everything that you just said is absolutely 100% right down the middle.
So everything, like with these sequels, if someone makes a sequel, it's not a cash grab. They care. They want to do more. They want to please you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Get off their back, hipsters.
That's right. Lay off.
I also wanted to also have a resident hipster on here for this, but I was
yes,
like, you know what?
I want to talk to him again.
No, I know you know exactly who I'm
Yes.
talking about, but no, I
decided
against it.
His computer was actually, I believe I saw it just about 4 weeks or about 3 weeks ago on, I believe it was QuakeCon forums, and it was also on id Software's Twitter.
I think it was on their Facebook page.
Yes, it was on their Facebook page and Twitter. So
wow.
he needs to know. He needs to know that his 1980s computer needs to be that it was all over the internet.
Oh, his vintageness is legendary.
It is legendary. The hipster computer is what I call it.
Alright, so that was my conversation with Shane Dyel. Got into a lot of really good stuff there and very much enjoyed it. Hope to have him on again soon. Hell, maybe for next week. We're thinking about doing a special Rack episode next week as our 1-year anniversary is quickly approaching. So hope to maybe talk to some of the community members, maybe other developers. Should be fun, we'll see, but stay tuned next week for that. The music for this week's episode is from Warcraft 2, which is the sequel, but it's not one we particularly discussed, but YouTube in its infinite wisdom kind of suggested the soundtrack to me, and you know, it's one of my absolute favorite soundtracks ever. I used to take the actual Warcraft 2 CD and play it in our stereo when I was a kid. Just an absolutely fantastic soundtrack, and I think I've actually been reminded of it by all the Heroes of the Storm I've been playing, specifically the Blackheart's Bay map. It's a pirate-themed map, and the music is very reminiscent of Warcraft 2, so just the whole soundtrack has just really been on my brain. It's just really fantastic stuff, and I don't know, I thought the music would kind of work here a little bit. Anyway, that's going to do it for this week's episode. If you have ideas for future topics or guests you'd like to have on, do contact me on Twitter at FBECarnival, and we'll look into getting all the other stuff all set up here sometime soon. Facebook page, all that. Gotta get it done. Anyway, I appreciate you listening, and we'll talk to you guys next week. Bye.